All right, so someone's got great jobs as a couple. They're renting a property and they don't own. Could be the most genius thing ever. Could not. We're going to talk about it today.
Good morning, Mark.
How are you, Ledge?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. So we're real estate agents. We're on the Northern Beaches, and we deal with a lot of executive rentals. We deal with a lot of residential sales. We deal with commercial properties, and every once in a while, we do rent a lot of premium property. And every once in a while, you're dealing with some sort of CEO, executive. They're there as a tenant, and they could be there in that property for 5, 10, or even 15 years. And it does pose the question as why haven't these guys bought something of their own for themselves? But there's often good reasons for it. So we're going to go through today advocating why people should rent a premium property instead of buying a premium property, talking about some of the ones that we've got. What do you think?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You'd assume with someone that's maybe got a great income, or like you said, there's a couple with both with good incomes, that you'd be going out, you'd be buying a property, and like we always advocate, buy an asset, buy a home because it goes up in value, you make money in the capital growth. But there's no set one strategy for everyone. And it is interesting because it's more common than you might think in terms of these executives going out and renting properties. And the biggest bottom line I can put it down to is you're looking for value.
You know what? I got a great client of mine, high wealth client, and he uses the word. He always says this to me. He says, sentence, "Mark, do not sleep on your money." I'm like, what do you mean by that? And it's a really, really good point. A lot of these executives, a lot of these income earners, even if they're not an executive, they're even if they're paying $400 a week, $500 a week. Sometimes people do the good old-fashioned maths and they say, I don't want to sleep on my money. My money can perform better elsewhere. So long as they're investing their money elsewhere, and
Correct.
It can often be a better result, which we're going to go through that today.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think that's the key point out there. The difference is still being smart with your money. Someone that is deciding to rent and then all their expendable income, they decide just to put into whatever they might want to put into and just spend it all of it and have no savings, invest none of their money. Of course, that's never going to be a great strategy. But someone that decides to rent and then still put their money back into investments, whether it be property or what it might be, that can be smart, because just like we've spoken about rent vesting strategies in the past for just your average income earner, rent where you want to live and invest where it's going to make you money, it can be very much the same thing at the high end as well, but in my opinion, even more lucrative.
So we were running some maths this morning. We've got a property on beachfront, penthouse, probably valued. I'm just going to use a silly example because you can water it down to all other examples when you got that, but this is where it really stands out. So this place you're going to rent for about $3.5, $4 a week. It's probably worth about $15 million. The strata levies in the complex are probably sitting at about 70,000, 60 to 70,000 a year. Now, when you do that maths and you reverse engineer back on that, say you're borrowing, you a third, 2/3 of it. You got a calculator, Michael?
I got a calculator. So let's say you're borrowing $10 million.
Bring it up on the screen like that. Show us those numbers. There you go.
I can't type it backwards. I'll type and get it back up.
All right, let's do it. So it's a $15 million property. Say they're borrowing $10 million for the $15 million property. First of all, before we get into that, we're going to add a little bit more for stamp duty. So on 15 million bucks, stamp duty is going to be, I think it just works out to about 5% of 15 million bucks. So what's that work out to?
5%, 15 million.
Oh, it's nice hearing the crunchy figure, the crunchy keyboard.
Yeah, 75,000.
Okay, so they're going to borrow...
So 750,000, I think it is, sorry. 750.
Okay, so they are going to borrow 10,750,000. So 10,750,000 if the bank gives them the money. What's that at today's interest rate? 6.5% principal and interest.
Yeah. Oh, let's use 6%. Make it round numbers.
Okay, so don't forget it's going to be a place to live, so you're going to have to pay principal and interest back. What do the repayments look like?
So the interest only portion of it is 645 grand a year.
So you're $1 million a year. You're 900 grand a year. So 900 grand. Let's put your strata on top of 60 grand that you're not. Sorry, no, you're not paying it. Actually, yeah, you're paying your strata a year, say 60. So 900 grand divided by 52 weeks. So if you're just tuning in, guys, we're talking about if you're renting
17 grand a week.
A week.
I'm using round numbers. Yeah.
Okay, so 17. And can we do the strata 60 divided by 52?
52. So it'll be a little bit over a grand a week. So let's round up to 18 grand a week.
Okay, so it's 18 grand a week. So get this, guys. Get this. You can live in a penthouse for 4 grand a week if you want to rent it, or you can be in there for 18 grand a week if you want to own it.
And that's with a $5 million deposit.
Wow. So next question that people are going to, I guess, I think it's very obvious you're missing out on capital growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that little puppy is going to double every 10 years. It'll be worth 30. So you're leaving about $1 million on the table, 1.3 on the table every 10 years, every year.
But the key is you still got to put your money elsewhere. So you're missing out on the capital growth there.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
So put your money elsewhere. And what I've found is as well, just staying on the rental side first, on the northern beaches especially, the rentals seem to top out. The absolute top end of these high-end rentals tend to be, I've noticed when you go, let's say realestate.com, go on rental properties and just go all of northern beaches, price high to low. They top out generally around 6,000 a week, 6,000 a week for the top end. You might get one or two more. And for these properties, these are probably $20 million properties. So what you'll find is the price you pay for a premium unique property is uncapped versus the rental. There still seems to be a bit of a ceiling there. And like Mark said, when you run through those numbers we just ran through, unless you're buying a substantial amount with cash with the property, or you have ideas to renovate and so forth, but if you just want to live that high-end lifestyle, and the biggest thing is have no fuss, or a lot less fuss, then it's potentially a really, really great strategy. And I think that's why we see a lot of people doing it as well, because those numbers you just put there are huge, Mark. 18,000 versus 4,000. That's a ridiculously big difference in cash flow per week.
For living in the same property, one's rent, one's own. And it does, and even when you look at the capital growth, I get that's attractive. It's a big thing that's in there. Lisa's got a comment.
We're selling Bellevue Hill at the moment. Some rentals there are $25,000 a week. Correct. And those homes go in excess of $50 million.
It's banana.
Yeah.
Now, there's rules to this, and that's why it's called rent vesting. Because yes, you're renting if you're, but if you're vesting, which Luke used that word prior, which is what he does. This is where it's clever. So if you take that money, so you're buying, say it's a $15 million property, right? You're not going to buy the $15 million property. You're going to rent the $15 million property. Guys, pardon me for this silly example. I know it's absolutely ludicrous, but we wanted that as you go higher with premium property, it becomes even more magnified. Probably should have used a $2 million property as an example instead. But if you're buying an investment property, and so you're going to go rent somewhere. So even one of the ladies in our office, Anthony, is looking at doing this. So the 600 grand's too much. She doesn't get much in the area for 600 grand, 650 grand to live in. So that's her budget to buy. So what she's going to do is buy a studio apartment, possibly, or a one bedroom, get a rental return going on it, and then she's going to go and rent her 2-bedroom for $600 a week in DY. It's still the same principle. I know we're using blown out ones and high and low, but it's still the same thing. You've got to still put that money in somewhere else, and you'll actually get often a better return on your money because you're not sleeping on your cash.
Correct. And it just, like you said before, it gets amplified. So to give you guys an example, we've got a property up for sale close to the DY headland on the cusp of North Curl there. That property there is in the high threes region. That would rent for about $2,200 a week. Nice background music. Yeah, we thought we'd try something different. A little bit of ambient noise. So what you guys will find is $2,200 a week, and let's use round numbers, for a circa $4 million property. Yet for an extra $1,300 a week, you're renting almost a $15 million property. It gets amplified as you go up. So if you want to live like a rock star, but you're not making $1 million a year, you still can. You just go rent that amazing property, and then you go invest your money elsewhere. And the thing is as well, and Luke put this message in just before, is in regards to tax deductions as well. And look, obviously, please get your own financial advice, but you can't claim on your own home when you're living in it. But I know that people, when they are renting properties, work from home and so forth. There's other ways to structure yourself in terms of tax as well, so it can become even more lucrative.
So as a lot of my wealthy landlords say, do not sleep on your money, which is, rent it, and then go and invest that same amount of money into, could be stocks, could be property and investment properties, it could be business, but there definitely is an ethos there. I do have to say that the self-discipline that you need to rent vest is very, very difficult. When you buy your home, pay off your home, you have your kids living in the home, it's a much easier transition for people. But to go and rent that same thing for your family, and then to maintain the discipline of investing into property at the same value, it's actually probably harder to do. So
Correct.
People would generally flop into a house and have kids and do that stuff rather than go and rent that property and then invest the same amount in something else.
Correct. Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's just brilliant. It's the fact that you can live at that high end. Literally, we're talking about the absolute best of the best properties on the northern beaches, and not have to be multi-millionaire. I think it's great.
I sold a property at kindergarten. It brought in a 300 grand income, and it was sold for just over $4 million. And that was a triple net income. So on top of that, that was in your hands. So what's 300 divided by 52?
Maybe about 600 a week. So 6,000 a week divided by 52. 5,800 a week, round numbers.
Okay, guys, I'm going to leave off on that example. Buy a house for $3 or $4 million in North Curl, and look at the mortgage repayments, or have this $6,000 coming in, and then go and rent whatever you want.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.